Let's get into today's episode, Cabbage Patch Kids. I think class is in session. Time to edumacate. Gather around. I'm going to tell you the tale about the Cabbage Patch Kids. Tonight we're diving deep into one of those rabbit holes that starts cute and nostalgic and ends up making you question everything you thought you knew about where babies came from. You know, the stork. The stork dropped them off on the porch. I'm talking about the real history behind the Cabbage Patch Kids. Not just the 1980s dolls that caused Christmas riots, but the eerie, century-old imagery of babies sprouting from cabbages, hatching from eggs, and yes, being shipped like packages on trains and through the mail. Picture this. It's the real early 1900s. Postcards are the social media of the day, cheap, mass-produced, sent across Europe and America. And suddenly, they're flooded with surreal scenes of adorable babies growing like vegetables in giant cabbage patches, being plucked by fairies, riding in these wheelbarrows full of greens, or stacked in crates ready for delivery. Some show them arriving by train, fresh from the patch, and we're going to go through these photos, bundled and labeled like cargo. These aren't rare oddities. Thousands were printed by dozens of publishers. Collectors call them whimsy today, but online communities label them repopulation postcards. Why? Because they tie into darker questions about orphan crises, mass relocation, and hidden repopulation after some forgotten catastrophe. The roots go way back. In European folklore, parents dodged the birds and bees talk by saying babies came from the cabbage patch or were delivered by storks. But it gets visual in 1896 when Alice Guy Blache, I think it's Blache. I'm going with that one. Right. Blache, one of the world's first female filmmakers, creates what many call the very first narrative film, La Fée aux Choux, The Cabbage Fairy. A fairy harvests live babies straight from oversized cabbages. The originals lost, but her 1900 remake survives, and it explodes the idea into popular culture. By the 1900s and 1920s, these postcards go viral in postcard form, and these images of baby sprouts from plants, mushrooms, eggs, nests, even water. Some scenes mix cabbages with trains, little ones rising rails, arriving at stations in giant veggie carts. Art historians say it's early surrealism, protodata, playful photo manipulation, poking fun at old folktale. But let's take a closer look. Some cards feel coded, like they're, you know what, as I'm saying that, this same image, you got to get another one. Like these are the ones that start getting us in trouble. That's an actual picture. I have 3 postcards. These are the postcards. The real images are the ones that are going to get you. But like this one, look at the scandal. It's scandalous. It's creepy. Let's tamper the photos because that one I just can't keep up while I'm talking. They're documenting something real beneath the whimsy. Now, overlay that with actual history. This is going to blow your mind. In 1913, the U.S. Postal Service launches Parcel Post. Anything under 50 pounds can ship cheap. Regulations are so loose that parents are literally mailing their babies short distances. Verified cases, about 7 between 1913 and 1915. The most famous, an 8-month-old baby from Ohio. A boy, of course, Ohio. James Beagle. Come here, boy. Shipped a mile to grandma for 15 cents postage plus $50 insurance. That's how Spirit Airlines advertises themselves, too. Mailmen carried infants in arms or pouches. Newspapers ran the stories with glee. Some staged photos circulated as jokes. By mid-1913, the postmaster banned it. No more live babies as parcels. The fact that had to be said. But again, you gotta say. The mailman's like, I did not sign up for this.
Neither did the kid.
Exactly. The kid made that clear. Sitting here taking care of a wine anyway. But for a brief window, shipping babies was mainstream enough to make headlines. And then there's the big one, the orphan trains. You know what? Maybe I should transition now back to that creepy. This is a photo, real stuff, living it up.
Does it have Getty image on it?
No, can't get me, Getty. And then there's the big one, orphan trains. From 1854 to 1929, roughly 200,000 children, infants to teens, were loaded onto trains from overcrowded East Coast cities, especially New York, and shipped west to rural America. Charles Loring Brace's Children's Aid Society called it charity. Saved street kids from poverty and crime by placing them out with farm families. At train stops, locals lined up on platforms, inspected the children like livestock, and chose who to take home. Sometimes in public auctions. No real vetting, no follow-up. In many cases, it was completely open. The Clintons, they still say they were born in the wrong generation. It was completely open, government endorsed, seen as progressive reform. Today, we call it the precursor to modern foster care and adoption. But back then, it was literally shipping children across the country like cargo. Fast forward to the 1970s and 80s, Xavier Roberts revives the whole Cabbage myth with his Little People dolls. Later, Cabbage Patch Kids sold at Babyland General Hospital, a real converted hospital in Georgia. Each doll hatches from a giant plastic cabbage, comes with adoption papers, a birth certificate, unique name. Kids don't buy them, they adopt them. Pure genius marketing that tapped straight into those old postcards and folk tales. The 1983 craze was insane. Flights in stores, black market prices. Roberts always said it was inspired by folklore, though there was drama over whether he borrowed too heavily from artist Martha Nelson Thomas's early soft dolls. So, connect the dots the way some researchers do. Surreal Cabbage postcards as coded evidence of the baby farms or cloning ops. Orphan trains as the public distribution network or produced children after a reset or depopulation event. Mailing babies in 1913 as a test run or leftover practice. Incubator exhibits at world fairs showing premature babies in rows like products. Then the dolls in the 1980s as soft disclosure or normalization. Mainstream history says postcards were just fun. Early surreal art playing on the same innocent lie we still tell kids. Babies come from the Cabbage Patch. The orphan crisis was brutally real. Immigration waves, disease, poverty, no welfare state. Mailing babies was a quirky loophole in new parcel rules. Quickly, they closed it. Orphan trains were a flawed but earnest attempt at social good. But the image persists. They keep resurfacing in viral videos, TikToks, books like the Cabbage Babies, repopulation postcards. Why do they feel so haunting? Why the trains, the shipping, the harvest themes over and over? That's what we're here to rethink. Is it all coincidence, or is there a thread running through folklore, early cinema, mass postcards, real child relocation programs, and even billion-dollar toys? You decide. So before we get into it further, be sure to drop your comments because we want to get your perspective on all of this because it's only going to unravel further. But I got a little bit of a clip here, and it kind of makes it all a little bit more real. There we go.
Most people think Cabbage Patch Kids were just a strange 1980s toy, but the idea behind them is much older and much stranger. Before the dolls ever existed, old world postcards showed babies literally growing out of cabbages. Thousands of them. This imagery was common in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And here's where it gets unsettling. During that same time period, babies were actually being mailed through the U.S. Postal Service. Not figuratively, literally shipped like packages. There were also advertisements that looked less like adoption and more like shopping. People browsing, selecting children, almost like inventory. Now consider something else from that era. Old photographs show entire cities already built, but strangely empty. Massive streets, grand buildings, very few people. Some researchers ask a disturbing question. What if children were being removed from families and redistributed to repopulate these found cities? Cities often associated with Tartarian-style architecture. Places that look finished but underoccupied. Why do so many early city photos look more like set pieces than living communities? And why does this period coincide with mass orphaning, child relocation programs, and the normalization of adoption over birth? Some believe the cabbage imagery symbolized children with no recorded origin. Not born here, but placed here.
Part of me does feel like the Tartaria thread kind of ties it all together. Ricky, do you have any thoughts on the Cabbage Patch Kid phenomena?
Yeah, at first I thought like they send those postcards like to their family, like that's the first gender reveal, you know what I mean? Like we're having a kid, you know what I mean? So I thought that's what it was, you know. He sent
we're having some lettuce.
Yeah, because it's a postcard, so you send the baby.
I like it. I like it.
So and then, but like, yo, I feel like there's more good people now in society than there was back then. Especially when there was not so much oversight. The horror stories those kids probably like been through, and like whoever the kids that went like on that train that's going across America that lived through that and made it through and started families and generation, they're the strongest of the strongest, because I knew it was some BS back then, bro. And no one cared. No one cared about what a little kid said. We ain't gonna listen to you. Just get back on the train, get back there, go fists up and knuckle up, buck. You know, like that is crazy. Wow,
it's so true. Well, and again, these are folks that are super easy to take advantage of, and that's half the reason they're a target. Even more so, clearly we're learning. This has been the appetite of the elites since the beginning. I mean, this is what the Aztecs were sacrificing. This is what the Mongols were after. It's like once you reach a level of power, it turns to like there isn't anything else more you can conquer but like the worst actions you could ever do. And I don't know that what's more innocent and pure than a child. But I also, like I had suggested, the Tartaria thread is what grabs my attention the most. So yes, here's some of these postcards again, just to give you one quick like full view. And you know, it reminds me of the creepy art we see in the elites' homes today. These paintings that Ellen DeGeneres and Jay-Z are paying for. It's disgusting, and it's, you know, this is a little bit more well-tempered, but it gives you that same eerie feeling. But then grounding it in like, how many mailmen just like being stuck carrying babies before you go, yeah, this wasn't like a rare thing.
I know why it stopped so soon, because there's a couple families that didn't get back their kids, and mailmen disappeared, skipped town. You know what I mean? Like
never arrived at grandma's house.
Just disappeared. Like, what the fuck?
The big bad wolf said he'll huff. Anyway, here's a little newspaper clipping. A mail carrier on rural route number 5 out of this place is the first to accept and deliver under parcels, post conditions, a live baby. The baby, a boy weighing 10 3/4 pounds, just within the 11-pound limit, is the child of Mr. and Mrs. Jesse Beagle of Near Glen. The package was well wrapped and ready for mailing when the carrier got it. Its measurement reached 72 inches, also just within the law, which makes 72 inches the limit. That's crazy.
Alex, let me ask a question. Do you know what year this was off the top? I know you said it in your narrative,
1913.
All right, I'm gonna see what $50 was in 1913.
Yeah,
in today's dollars for that insurance.
Well, it's insured, but what's 15 cents? Like, that's a pretty expensive package, I'm sure. Actually,
that's what I want to look up real quick. I'll get back to you.
So Tanya over here
well
said.
wrapped.
So I had a comment over here that she said they took the children from their parents and did experiment on them, tortured them, sold and changed their names.
I think that was definitely a major part of it. I also think a major part of it is I really, my dad's an engineer. I would spend my time going to work with him around architects. And as confident I was in them and the art that they were doing at that time of putting together these landscapes and buildings, now traveling Europe, seeing old world and what we're doing in the new world, I don't think we can do it. Like, my buddy got married in a casual church here in Cleveland, and I really don't think we can do 4-story organs anymore, because we don't look at that as an angle of medicine. We look at it as just, hey, it's old classical music. But the reason they were making 4-story organs is because they knew the hertz and vibrations to actually use it for medicinal purposes. So I just think there's a whole world before us that existed that we adopted and have built around, and kind of are just the hermit crab filling in this shell that we stumbled upon. And, there's so many layers to this, dude. This is an old episode of the podcast, not our live show. And I uncovered how in the Grand Canyon, there's all kinds of Egyptian artifacts, or what looks like could be, it's similar to the type of gods and style of statues. And you can't go in the Grand Canyon without a personal guide. So I think there's so much of this world that is hidden from us, because it would totally shake our historical narrative. And I think that's part of it. Yes, they were experimenting on the kids, but I also think they needed to just fill the adopted Chicago. I mean, isn't it under Chicago there's an entire city?
Yes.
So, like, under Chicago, we have an entire city. I don't know.
And what's the word? Tartarian? Is that what the word?
Tartaria.
Yeah. My first thought when I saw those photos was this supposed, not even, I guess, supposed, but photos of the underground Chicago. So it is funny that you do make that connection, because, I mean, back then they just had to find ways to populate land. It's not like now where most areas are populated. It's like back then, where were you putting all these people? Right.
Well, and at the same time, we got to remember the World Fair. I mean, they're talking about baby incubators at this time, and the World Fair, we're building super cities that bury the technology we have today, free flowing electricity through Tesla's studies, and, super powered, again, the landscapes with free flowing electricity is just an incredible concept. And they were able to build them in such short periods. Now it takes, a whole 100 centuries just to finish the tip of Spain's church. But that whole thing was initially built in like 100 years.
Yep.
What does that tell us? So I don't know. A lot to consider. Will, any wrapping thoughts on that, on our whole Cabbage Patch reality?
It reminds me of the topic we did a few weeks ago about the lemmings. What is it? The lemmings? Yeah, it's just sort of these old folk tales that just have these deeper, darker underlying connotations that, I mean, no one's really considering at the time. But now with, I guess, more information gathered, we can kind of look back and have conversations about it regarding of what really was going on there. Because, the people back then had no idea. The use of information was completely not existent back then.
Right. The wrapping thought I'm going to give us is, at the end of the day, I'm raising this, like, what kind of makes this relevant today? I don't know, Will, if you said that while we were live or not, but it's like, what kind of raised this? And one, this is for some reason catching traction on the internet again right now, probably because people are for the first time en masse going down the rabbit hole. But why this kind of hit a nerve with me is it is fun, kind of like when COVID hit. This moment has people so curious and excited that for something I learned a decade ago and it kind of just filed away and moved on, but still holds its relevancy, right? Like this trafficking and trade and appetite clearly just resides in our culture and in the elites that steer it. But it's exciting to see people rediscover something that, it's just this dynamic. Like I get to reintroduce something that I've kind of forgotten about and re-examined through this. The fact that it was policed and carried out by our government, just the shipping of people, trains of hundreds of orphans. I mean, all of these things are not disconnected. And so it's just important to kind of consider them, touch upon them, and then we can move on to greener and brighter pastures. We need fruitful dirt if you're going to grow babies in cabbage. So for our next topic,